Leash. What a move on Deguara, but Big Sam says, not in my house. Oh, it's stolen away by King. Back for the white shirts. Brickman inside to Big Sam for the slam.
For the man in the middle of San Miguel, Alab, Pilipinas, this was more than just a normal game, as Sam Deguara took it to former friends now turned foes. We talk about this impressive victory and more in a new episode of ABL Recap. Once again, we'd like to welcome everyone to a new episode of ABL Recap. Now, before we get to the nitty-gritty of our basketball talk tonight, we'd like to remind everyone to please subscribe to all of our social media channels here at the ASEAN Basketball League. And don't forget, of course, to click on the bell to be first to find out about our new videos coming up. So you've got Chuck Araneta together with Carlo Pamintuan. And Carlo, an impressive win. No more undefeated teams here in the ABL as the San Miguel Alab Pilipinas winning impressive fashion, 96-73 over the Mono Vampire basketball team.
So many storylines heading into this particular matchup. Of course, we all know that these two teams engaged in the finals before. The weird thing is, there are players from Mono Vampire now plying their trade as members of San Miguel Alab Pilipinas. We're talking about the giant Sam Deguara and the main playmaker right now for the Philippine team in Brickman. An outstanding ball game, top to bottom for the Philippine side, because you have to compare it to what happened in their debut in this season. It was a lackluster performance in Stadium 29, and immediately Filipino basketball fans felt that, hey, this team might be in trouble. No Ray Ray Parks, no Ronaldo Balkman. They did not know what kind of team they wanted to expect, what they wanted to see from that squad. But now, after a 3-game winning streak, after that forgettable debut, right, now they're on top of the league, tied with Mono Vampire.
It's so quick how things change. You mentioned the first game, it was a 111-76 win by Mono Vampire over San Miguel Alab Pilipinas. Now, you know, after this game, you can't help but come to the conclusion that really the game changer was Sam Deguara, who just dominated his individual matchup against Ryan Watkins. And even though Deguara wasn't the leading scorer, there's just something to be said about how he impacts the game with every second he's on the floor, and he really took it against this smaller Mono Vampire squad.
You know how the sun has the gravitational pull of all the planets around?
He's a black hole. Everything gets sucked into him.
Everything has to pay more attention to Sam Deguara. 100% of the time, Ryan Watkins would be, so busy, just minding where Deguara is all the time. And that actually frees up his teammates, his local teammates, to get their form going as well. They did not have this with Adrian Forbes before because he was not really a threat on offense. So the entry of Deguara not only gives you an option for the shaded area, for scoring, for blocking, for rebounding, it also alleviates the defensive pressure that is faced upon his teammates.
There was the time that this game turned was during a 16-0 run that happened in the third quarter, and then also in the fourth, Mono Vampire was just scoreless. And heading into this game, Mono Vampire had one of the most dynamic offenses. They were basically unstoppable from beyond the arc. Guys like, of course, Tyler Lamb, and doing a great job of really just spacing the floor for Mono Vampire. But there was something about the defense of San Miguel Alab Pilipinas, and Coach Jimmy Alapag really made a point to not let them lose at the same way, particularly from beyond the arc, and they really locked down on the three-point shooting of Mono Vampire.
Very clear numbers from their first meeting in this season. Mono Vampire shot 18 of 32 from beyond the arc against San Miguel Alab Pilipinas. In this game, same number of attempts, so the looks were still there, but this time they were more challenged. Only 7 conversions for Mono Vampire. Alab did not shoot well either from the 3-point range. So the biggest difference then was the inside scoring of Nick King, of Sam Deguara. Even Jason Brickman put up 8 points, grabbed 8 rebounds, and of course, as usual, he was their main playmaker with 10 assists in the ballgame.
We talked about Deguara a lot, and obviously an impressive performance, but at this point, we're starting to get already, comfortable with the stat lines that a guy like Jason Brickman is producing, well-rounded numbers from all across the floor. The assist totals are there as well. And, it took a while for him to really get acclimated to his new squad. But you could really sense that there was something more to his game here. And we know that Brickman also has a ton of experience playing with and against those guys from Thailand. But we know also that he did not finish his stint with Mono Vampire last season. And there was a little bit more of an edge to his game.
For sure. For sure. We always see it whenever one player ends his career with one team and moves on to the ABL with another team. There's always a revenge factor. Right. You always want to score one against your former team, against your former teammates. Try to convince them that they pulled off the wrong decision by breaking their relationship with you. But for me, what's important about San Miguel Alab Pilipinas right now is that their offense is a little bit harder to determine if you're the defensive side, because in the past, at least in their first game, it was easy to see where the hits were coming from, as Jordan Heading had to work extra hard to create offense for himself and for his teammates. But now you have Khalif Wyatt playing well in their last game. You have Nick King playing well in this game. Brandon Ganuelas Rosser even hitting three-point shots off the bench, as they're starting to figure out what kind of team they will be. Now, the thing that boggles me a little bit for Mono Vampire is the fact that they do not like starting with their best unit possible. Sure. We know that Preston Knowles, one of their 3 world imports, comes off the bench. In this game, Tyler Lamb came off the bench. And if you compare that to what happened in game number 1 between these two teams, it was basically over after the first 15 minutes because they established complete control offensively. San Miguel Alab Pilipinas could do nothing against Mono Vampire in their first meeting. So why wouldn't you want to have a hot start, especially you're playing on the road? And that is why I think Mono Vampire will have to do some adjustments, at least in how they play their starters. Maybe we might see a much stronger unit next time around.
You mentioned Tyler Lamb, who led Mono Vampire in scoring, 22 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists, and he's probably just so tired of the Philippines already at this point. It's just, can we just play another team?
Well,
can we just play another team? But you know what? Here's my question for you. They got by the KL Dragons in their previous game, 79-73. That was tighter than maybe a lot more people expected. And then this one, a blowout. The way that we sort of change our perception of Alab Pilipinas after this 3-game winning streak, the ranking of Mono Vampire, has it changed for you after this loss?
Not really. We all know that in the ABL, this is not a sprint. It is a marathon. Mono Vampire would be the first team to tell you that how you start doesn't matter. It's how you perform in the playoffs after you make it into the top 8. So for me, what's important for Mono is that they have collected a lot of great pieces. Right. This is a loaded team top to bottom, from the imports to the locals, and that means that they can adjust to any sort of gameplay that is used upon them by any of their opponents. So if you're a Mono Vampire fan, yes, you took your first loss, but you shouldn't be worried at all, because this would be a very good season for that Thailand-based team.
You know, for Thailand, the ace in their sleeve has always been the local output that they've had. And in their previous game against the Dragons, it was guys like Chicha Enanti that was spectacular, shooting the floor, but he was quiet in this game, only with 6. And, you know, Tirawat Chantachon, again, his struggles to start the season, continuing only at 2 points. And, you know, when Mono, we know that they love to play at a quick pace. They love to space the floor and get a lot of shots up. And I think one thing that we're learning from the squad is that, yes, you mentioned they have a lot of individual talents, but what really takes them over the edge is when they're locals. A little bit similar to how the Philippines also, they have a lot of terrific local support. But when the locals of Thailand, they really become such an impressive team and so tough to beat as well.
And that is why they will continue to be a threat, because you might have a bad game, a bad shooting game from Lish, from Watkins, from Morgan, from Knowles, but you know that it is an aberration rather than the rule. This will not happen game in and game out. It was just that they collectively had a bad shooting night against San Miguel Alab Pilipinas, resulting to that loss.
Once again, a 96-73 win for San Miguel Alab Pilipinas, and that's going to do it for us for this episode of ABL Recap. Once again, just a reminder that we want everyone to please subscribe to our ABL social media channels and of course, click the bell to be the first to be notified about our upcoming episodes. For Carlo Pamintuan, my name is Chuck Araneta, and we will see you on the next episode of ABL Recap.